Hello, this is SnowWhiteBigfoot with my Bigfoot Diary Part 9. January 1st, 2016 through February 28th, 2016. We were heading into the bad part of winter, starting with January 1st. When we left off at the end of December, I knew that the Bigfoot had been up to the house because they had turned that little snowman exactly 90 degrees. And also the banana, pear, and steel jar of peanut butter were gone. But the lid for the peanut butter was on the ground in front of the porch. So this is how it was December 30th. The snowman was facing forward and they turned it exactly 90 degrees. So where we pick up then on the 1st, none of the fruit on the railing was touched. Neither was anything else, except for the can of trail mix that I put out. It was knocked off of the railing. I had put it in place with peanut butter. So does this mean that they would rather have the peanut butter? I don't know, but it's pretty strange that it was the only thing messed with. If it were a little animal messing around, why didn't they take the fruit? And as you can see here, this was the 1st. Nothing was messed with but that can of trail mix. This was where the peanut butter had sat. Okay, so the setup, I just pretty much put the trail mix back and added in another banana. This is the dolls with the bell. The bananas, the fruit, and the trail mix. January 3rd. Both bananas were gone, but the apple and pear were untouched. The dolls and the car were knocked onto the ground in front of the porch. As you can see there, this is where the dolls were. They're not there, but nothing else was touched. And here's how they were found on the ground. Almost like they had been played with. That's what it seems like to me. So for 6 days, nothing much happened. And then on January 9th, a lot happened. I found foot impressions in the yard, Y sticks in the yard, and there was a return. So when I walked out onto the porch, I was really surprised at what I found. They had returned the bell that they'd taken on December 24th. And where I found it was strange, because I had put a little container that I had put upside down on the chair beside the door. They put the bell right on top of that little container. So that blew me away. They'd come right up on the porch and put it there beside the door. I don't know if to make it easier for me to find. But here you can see the bell. And so they had to walk up on the porch to do it. The door would be right here. And this is a close-up of the bell. It started, the things that they bring back are clean, which surprised me. I would have figured they'd be pretty dirty. But then as I walked around the yard, this is when I noticed foot impressions. So starting with there was one in the mulch right here, right in front of the railing, and they all measured 13.5 inches. So here is where it is. And they all had pretty much the same shape too. Now the ones in the yard are harder to see, but here's this one and another. And the fact that they all measured the same, it tells me that it's not my imagination, but I could see where they stepped. It's hard to see in the pictures, but I could see it. So I guess you have to take my word for it, partly. But here's another one. And then I also found this Y stick, which is the one that I had found that the two ends were broken off so that it would be even. So the setup for the next day, I had made some pudding, homemade pudding with graham crackers in it. I had some leftovers, so I thought I'll just stick it out over in the pile. So that's what I did. And also there was a new addition to the doll family, my husband's representative. It's January 10th. Pudding. I got up and looked over at the pile, and it was gone, container and all. This is where it was sitting. I'd never had them take food, container and all, before, so I think they must have really liked it. And the strange thing is, about, I don't know, a couple months later, I found this container clear over on the other side of the hill. I mean, really far away. So I don't think it was an animal that took it. It had to be something that could carry it. So anyways, no other food was taken, but the dolls were on the ground again in front of the porch. The little dog was knocked over. The fruit wasn't disturbed, and it was right beside the bells and the dolls. So right here were the dolls. This is knocked over, but none of this is disturbed. So here's the dolls on the ground again. January 16th, there was no activity, but I've been trying out some new contraptions to keep the food out of reach of the critters, but so that the Bigfoots could get it. But it worked for keeping the critters out, but the Bigfoots weren't touching it, so I tried something else later. So this is the setup for the next day. I put honey out for the first time. January 17th, the honey was gone. The peanut butter was knocked onto the porch. The little dog was on the porch. The Bigfoot doll was moved behind the girl doll's head. And most interesting was where I found the man doll. The man doll is clear over here. And you can see the little Bigfoot was laying beside her. Now it's back here. And here's the doll. I think they carried it over there. There were no teeth marks on it. And I think I should explain why the doll's naked. When I got it, it had like camouflage hunter's clothing, and I thought that the Bigfoots might not like that because they don't like hunters and guns probably. So I took the clothes off, and later on I get him some clothes. That's coming on down the road. So then nothing much had happened over the next 2 weeks. And on the 30th, we got a really nice break in the weather. So we decided to have a fire since it was so warm out, and we love to do that and listen for vocalizations. So we'd been sitting out there a while, and we started hearing vocalizations coming from the east side of the property, down by the dump. It kind of sounded like an owl, but it wasn't an owl. And I mean, it was just too loud, and it was weird to be, just didn't sound like an owl. But anyways, that continued on for a while, and then we heard another vocalization that was different. Pause this. We heard another vocalization that was different, and then we started hearing vocalizations come from the west side of the property, and those got to be pretty crazy sounding. And at one point, it sounded like they were kind of answering each other back and forth from the west side to the east side of the property. So I did try to record that with my phone, but it didn't show up, or it didn't pick it up very well. So anyways, moving on. On 31st, sometime during the night, they came and they took this striped mouse that I put out. So you can see here it's gone. So that was exciting. And then on the 1st, when I got up to go to work, this is how I found the porch. The trail mix was just slightly moved, and I put a gray monkey out on the glider, and it was moved. This is a really blurry picture, I'm sorry. But this was straight, and it was just moved a little bit. And the monkey had been sitting up right here. and it's now over on its face, which was going to be, you'll see it's a pattern that continues. So that was at 7:07 a.m. I went to work, I came back at 2:58, and the trail mix was on the ground. All the nuts were gone, just the cranberries were left. So I don't know what did that, but it was pretty odd. Seeing that the man doll, the pen, and also this baby's ear was knocked to the ground. So I'm thinking it might have been a Bigfoot that came up and ate those nuts. So on February 3rd, there was no activity, but one of the days between the 3rd and the 6th, I got vocalized at from down by the dump. It was really cool. I was cleaning this up, and I was walking from there past the garage over into the front of the garage where the garbage is, and then I threw some stuff away. As I was starting back down by on the east side, down by the dump, I heard another one of those owl vocalizations like we heard on the 30th. It was like they were saying, "Hey, hi," and it was pretty cool. I mean, it just felt like they were talking to me. So on the 4th, the only change was that monkey, the gray monkey, was moved again. Here's how it was on the 3rd. Now it's moved clear over here. And you notice this one wasn't disturbed at all. Don't know what the reason is they like that monkey so much, or don't like it. I'm not sure. Okay, the 6th, the sealed jar of peanut butter was gone again. The apple was gone, but not the bananas this time. The honey was moved a little bit, but everything else looked untouched. So you can see here, the apple's gone right beside the bananas. The peanut butter's gone. So what did that? So we decided to take a walk. So we went down in the woods, and when we got back, this is how I found the dice. Before the walk, on top, you can see that they're moved. Also, this tablet that I put out was different. This little flap of paper was up now, and the crayon's back behind the tablet. So I think they were up visiting while we were on our walk. So again, no activity for 2 weeks. But on February 19th, there was another break in the weather, and it got into the 50s. So I had a feeling that they would come up tonight. I'd been forming a theory that the Bigfoot around here don't go very far during the winter. So if they came up tonight, that would be proving my theory true. On the 20th, when I got up to check the porch, there was definitely activity. So that proved my theory, or it's at least helping the theory out. So some of the dice and dominoes were knocked to the ground. The apple and pear were gone. The bananas were partially eaten, and all of the dolls were on the ground. The interesting thing, though, is where I found the dolls. Okay, first of all, here you can see on the 19th how it was left. See, all the dolls are knocked down, or they're on the ground. Fruit's gone. Oh, and the dominoes were back on the other railing. So just the 1 and the 2 domino were down here. The rest weren't touched. And here, this is how the dolls, I found them on the 20th. What struck me was how similar this was to how I found them on the December 24th, especially the girl doll, almost in the exact same spot. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they did that. I don't know why they were playing, because I thought that before they put the, pause this, I thought they'd put the girl doll and the car over here together, and it was like the little Bigfoot was hiding behind a rock like he was watching, you know, like Bigfoots will watch humans. So it's like they knew these go together. The Bigfoot was hiding behind the rock. Now they got the girl over here again, so I'm not sure about all this, but I think they were playing. Okay, let's move on. The 22nd, at about 3:30, we decided to take a walk. We were gone for about a half hour. When I got back, I was looking at the dice on the railing because they had been messed with while we were gone. But then I noticed on the ground, right in front of the railing, was that red and blue mouse that they had taken on the 31st. They had brought it back. I think they brought it back while we were on our walk. So here, this picture was taken on the 20th, but nothing had moved up until now. So this is before the walk, after the walk. So they were up messing around with the dice again. And then this is where I found the red and blue striped mouse. So I was pretty excited that they'd been up again while we were on our walk. And this is something else weird that we noticed. There's a tree right, well, near the back porch, and we saw this string. It's red baler twine that they use, farmers, but it's tied up in here. There's a knot here, and there's no way it blew up in there. There's no way it could have even slid up on there. It had to be put up on the branch and then tied. So, I mean, that kind of blew my mind. I'd also been finding little piles of that red twine around the property like this. And the twine that they use, or they had been using recently, was blue. This is red. So it's either old or it came from somewhere else. This was that one I found in the mulch right beside the bench. So in the evening we had started hearing some really strange calls coming from the east side of the property. It started out sounding like somebody was blowing on a whistle. Then it kind of changed into more of a scream, but not really a scream. It was somewhere between a scream and a whistle. It was one of the weirdest things I'd ever heard. And during all that, we heard geese being riled up down by the pond. So this went on for at least an hour. And then a couple nights earlier, we had heard geese from over the hill off of our property acting up, and we couldn't figure out why. So I don't know what that was all about, but it was really interesting. So between the 22nd and 24th, there were a lot of similarities I wanted to point out. As you can see here, the dice were just slightly messed with all 3 days. And then another set of similarities is, if you look here on the 22nd and 24th, the paper plates are almost in the exact same spot. The honey is in the same spot pretty much all 3 days. And then the keys were here, and then that little doll or stuffed animal was in the same spot for 2 days. So on the 25th, I woke up to a nasty day. It was cold, and when I looked out on the porch, I saw this. So the night before, we had it set, and it was up against the railing here. When I woke up, it was clear over here, set off, and the banana's still in it. So how did it get there? Also, the honey was knocked off again. It was sitting over here. And some of the other things were slightly moved. So I think it got the Bigfoot's curiosity up, and they moved that trap. the trap was for little animals that might have been taking fruit. So on the 28th, there was a die that came up missing. On the 27th, I built a little pyramid with the dominoes and the dice. And then this is how the rest of it looked on the 27th. So on the 28th, the sealed peanut butter jar was gone again. I've never found any trace of the sealed jars of peanut butter after they were taken. They're just gone. All the dice were knocked off onto the porch. The honey was on the ground. First, I didn't know what to make of it, except that I was sure that the Bigfoot took the peanut butter. But then I noticed that there were only 5 dice on the porch, and I had put out 6. So I looked everywhere, and it was gone. So I figured that meant that the Bigfoot took the die as well as the peanut butter. Here's how it looked on the 28th. Dice are back here. Honey's up here. That little toy was knocked off. There's a little Bigfoot toy. So anyways, this brings an end to February. The next diary entry will be part 10, and it will cover March. March was a very exciting month, so thanks for watching, and please come back and watch more videos.